Hello and welcome to our first tutorial towards making this game here, Smashy City. So we're going to have a look at what's in this game very briefly, and then we're going to try and make a little sort of white box kind of prototype version of this game. It's a very basic one. So the game consists of a player character that's in the center of the camera, kind of low polygon character. Who can turn around and walk. The environment is very flat, and we have buildings that are very low poly, very simple, and then we've got cards, etc., non-player characters, and later in the game you've got tanks and helicopters that fire at you. The head-up display is interesting. It's got numeric values, got pickups for money. We've got an icon-based health system. We've got a bar here for an energy bar for rage, pause menu, and I think this is a multiplier up here. So busy enough game. Let's have a look at it in motion. This is it here. So you can see as the character collides with the buildings, they do a little shake and they immediately go into the ground, and then they leave behind them rubble. Okay, so what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and get just a basic cube, see if we can get it to move around, and we're going to see if we can get a building to shake and fall beneath the ground and then disappear. So that's basically what we're going to try and do. This is a kind of a proof of concept. So let's jog into Blender here. This is not a modeling tutorial, so I'm going to keep this nice and simple. So this is my default cube. I'm going to call it player. I'm going to add a plane and scale it just by 10. We'll call this the ground. And we'll move the cube up by a value of 1, so it's on top of the ground. I'm just going to pause now and have a think about how we're going to move things. First thing we'll do is I'm going to change into Blender Game, and I'm going to change my interface here a little bit. I'm going to split my view a bit, and I'm going to add my logic editor. So the reason I've done that is I'm going to do a little animation shortly. So I'll need my timeline for that, and then I need my logic editor for anything to happen up here. So we want this cube to move. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the camera and go Alt or Alt G to bring it back to the origin, remove location and remove position. I'm going to go OR minus 90 to point it in that direction, and then GZ 1. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get this cube to follow the movement of the camera, and I'm going to get the camera to follow the movement of the mouse. Now actually, for simplicity's sake, let's just remove the camera out of that equation. Let's just take the camera out. I was going to introduce a different camera, but we'll just make the cube here the center of interest here. So I'm going to add a mouse input, and what inputs we want is mouse movement, and then here we want mouse motion. So we've two choices. We've got look or visibility. So we'll look at visibility another day when we can turn the mouse on and off. I think in our last class we turned it on here. There's an actual brick to do that. So mouse look, and we will connect these. I'm just going to hit P, and you can see that the cube's going to move, but it moves in crazy axes. So let's turn off X and see what happens. So P. So it's still rotating that way. That's not the way we want it to move, so let's try this one. P, and perfect. So the cube can move, can rotate around on the Z axis with the mouse movement. So we'll call this look, and we'll do the same over here. Now, what I was originally going to do is I was going to add these bricks to the camera, but I'll explain that to you another day. We'll just leave it for that for now. Now, we'll still have to move forward, so I'm going to add a keyboard input. I'm going to press up, and we'll call this forward. And over here we'll add some basic motion, and we want it to move forward on its y-axis, so 0.1, and connect them, and we'll call this forward as well. Now let's see what we've got. So P, up arrow, rotate, and now I can move around, and that's exactly what we want. That's the movement we want from our player. We want to be able to direct the character around our world using forward and the mouse. Perfect. So we are successful. Now I'm going to look through the camera, and I'm going to click on this button here, lock camera to view, and that's a really cool tool. It allows us to position the camera by navigating around the viewport. Now, there's a couple of very cool functions in Blender. So there's a camera actuator, so you can get the camera to track objects. So let's see if that'll work for us. So we can set the height to say, let's see what height we are the camera's at the moment. It's at a height of 14, so let's say height. Oh, no, sorry, it's at a height of 19. Let's say a height of 15. And then it says minimum, let's say 12, maximum 20. And damping is how quick the camera is to remove, react to the player movement. So let's hit P and see where the camera goes to. Now you can see that the camera doesn't rotate with the player, but when I move the player, it will keep the player sort of in the center, and that's not dissimilar to what we have in Smashy City. Yeah. So that's not bad. So hit escape. So that's good. So we'll call this track, and same over here. Now, last thing we want to do is we want to add in a building. So let's just click somewhere and add in a cube, and we'll go SZ2, so it's a little bit bigger than our player. Now, we're not going to do any modeling with it, but we want it to have a little animation, and you know, when the animation's finished, we want it to disappear. So how do we do that? Well, there's a little bit to that, so let's get cracking on it. So first things first, let's hit P. So there's the yeah, so the two of them are visible in the game engine. I need to turn this into, we'll turn it into a rigid body, and we'll tell it that it's a box collider. So let's go P, and I'm still in the game, and I stop when I hit my cube here, which is a static object, and we'll give it a collision box as well. Now I'm going to give it a little animation. Now normally you would name animations, but this, like I said, this is proof of concept. So at the moment my animation is 250 frames long, which is 10 seconds, which is far too long. So we are going to make that, we'll make it 3 seconds, which would be 75 frames. Now we'll zoom in a bit. So frame 1, we want to remember our location, rotation and scale. And on frame 75, I'm going to go GZ. I'll just leave the top sticking out there, and we'll go location, rotation, scale. We'll bring it up. Now that's going to give it a little rotation that way, and a little rotation that way, and a little rotation. Just doing this kind of by eye, and a little rotation that way, rotation that way. It doesn't really matter. Don't want to do it too much. This is meant to be a little shake. Rotation, location, scale. Okay, so we can scrub through now. So this is our rotation and our animation. So maybe it's a bit slow. We could always speed it up. Anyway, there's a proof of concept, so we're not too worried. So now I want to execute that in the game engine. How do I get that to happen? Well, I say now I've this object selected, because while the collision happens between these two objects, the animation is not on this object, on the player. The animation is on here. You can see the keyframes. So the collision logic should be on this object. So on collision, play the animation. We said it was frame 1 to frame 75. And it's called cube action. Oops. We linked the two of them together. And let's just go P, play the game engine, move forward, and there he goes down into the ground. Now I can go over. Now we want this object to disappear after it has played its animation, and that's going to require a little bit of yeah, a little bit of logic. So how do we get it to basically end object? So the edit object and end object. So we want it to delete itself after it's fallen in. Now eventually what we'll do is we'll probably send a message and add rubble, or but just for now we just want it to end. So how do we get it to end? We don't want it to end until this animation is finished. So in Blender, to do that, you have to. It's a little complicated. It's complicated in code as well. But what we can do is we can go actuator. So the sensors are normally over here, and the actuators are over here. But in this instance here, we're saying we want to wait till this actuator is finished. And we've called it collapse. So that's what we're trying to get to work here. However, we want to we don't want to make it true or false, and we don't want to invert it. If we invert it, it basically means when this is not playing, which is not what we want. This is the way this sensor works. It turns itself on when whatever actuator you list here becomes active, and then it turns itself off when this actuator is finished. So here we're going to use an interesting piece of control. We're going to say NAND, and it's a negative AND. So I was going to show you that working for now, and we'll see what happens. So we play our, and then it's gone. And that's kind of what we want. We want it to play at the animation and then to disappear. So we'll have a look at all of these another day. But for now, that's the logic to, let's put it up there for you to have a look at. So on collision, play the action, and when the action is finished, that's these two bricks in conjunction with each other, then do something, and that something is end object. And over here we've added two inputs. One is the up arrow, and we've added mouse movement. Over here we've used mouse look, but only on the x-axis, and we've moved a small amount forward on the y-axis when we have a keyboard input. And we'll save this to our desktop and we'll call it SC for Smashy City Prototype. Very good. And that is the end of this tutorial.